The Dog and Deuce Show is produced by Dymar Productions in association with Studio B Productions.
Welcome to Utah's longest-running sports podcast. This is Dog and Deuce. Every week we dive deep into the Jazz, the Utes, the Cougars, and everything in between. On this episode, we'll preview Super Bowl 55. Plus, the Jazz win streak was snapped in Denver, and they followed it up by nearly blowing a 26-point lead to the lowly Pistons. We got all that and a whole lot more coming your way on Dog and Deuce number 355.
Studio B in Salt Lake City. This is Dog and Deuce. Join the conversation at doganddeuce.com or send an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to episode 355 of the Dog and Deuce Show. If you want to know more, and I sure hope you do, follow along with the show notes at doganddeuce.com.
Watch this show all weekend long on K-Powder TV or Backcountry TV, or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
I'm Deuce.
This is episode 355. All right, I think this might be the last week we're auditioning music for the intro. What did you think of that one?
That's a good one. I think I like the other one better.
Really? That's what Jess said too. Okay.
I've got some reports. I've had a few people reach out to me saying they liked the last week's.
Oh, man. I like last week's too. The problem is, put it on YouTube. Again, we're getting a copyright claim. We have the license for this, but it's just a pain to have to send that in and then wait for it. And it's just a pain, man. So yeah. I thought maybe this one, I finally got the energy of the old intro, but maybe we'll just have to suck it up.
I mean, I like that one too. You know me. I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland.
You're neutral. Smart man. Maybe we'll go with that last one because I like that one too. All right. Lot going on as usual.
Nice shirt.
I got this sweet shirt on. I told you I'd wear it. It looks good, man. I actually really dig this shirt.
Cowboy punk, brother.
That's
You're
what
in
it
business,
is,
man.
That's what it is. It feels natural on me.
It looks natural.
I love it, man. I love it. The only thing is it's freezing in my basement, so I might have to throw on the hoodie if I get too cold. But this is, yeah, dude, like it's comfortable. It fits well. I'm actually glad it's not denim because denim's a little too stuffy for me. Like I feel too claustrophobic. So
right.
Dude, it's perfect. So thank you. This is my Christmas present. I love it.
I'm happy you're wearing it, dude. It's like the greatest. It's the greatest day ever. It's like watching your son go to his first prom.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
You got the button up on, dude. You got the snap on, dude. You got snap that off.
I know, dude.
You can be like Blake Griffin after the Jazz game at halftime, just like boom.
That was pretty crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen that. Dude just rips his jersey in half. He was so pissed off.
Hulk Hogan's it, dude.
That was nuts. Crazy. That's Blake Griffin, man. That's what he does. If you are out there listening to the show or watching the show on K-Powder TV and Backcountry TV, if you got 2 seconds, it would mean a lot to us if you share the show with a friend. Let them know that you're listening to this. If you got a Jazz fan out there in your life who you think would benefit from hearing more Jazz talk, we would love to have them try out our show and let us know what they think. We're on YouTube. That's youtube.com/DDonsports. As always, go to doganddeuce.com for links to the show and everywhere you can find the podcast. We would really appreciate any new listeners you send our way. Make sure to tell them, though, that when they come to the show, hit us up, let us know. We will send you a hat. If you send us some new listeners, we will send you a hat. I will do it at my dime, no shipping. All it takes is a text to a friend or an email or a message or something like that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get going into this. We got to start with the Super Bowl, right?
Hold on, I gotta ask you real quick.
Okay.
Do you think, and this was 2 weeks ago, and this is a little off show notes, so bear with me.
Okay.
And it's not something you're going to be probably real up to verse on. So this is very organic. See, we're turning.
I like this, man.
Very organic. So the Baseball Hall of Fame announced its class back on January 26th.
Okay.
There's no one.
No one?
No one was elected. No one received the 75% from the baseball writers to get into the Hall of Fame. First of all, and I don't know if you heard, one of the highest person was Curt Schilling with 71%.
Okay.
Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens had 61.8 and 61.6 respectively. Scott Rowland came in at 52.9. Now I got to say, I love some Scott Rowland. I remember the Phillies back in the day. He was a baller third baseman. Then he went to play for the Cardinals, and well, as a Cubs fan, you know what I think of him when he moves to St. Louis. Not a whole hell of a lot. But how is Scott Rowland at 52% and Barry freaking Bonds at 61? I don't care about PEDs. Like, bro, Barry Bonds, like, come on.
That's why. Steroids.
Dude never tested positive, bro. Never suspended for PEDs ever. I'm starting to get to the point where the baseball writers are bugging the hell out of me because, this has kind of been a life problem for me since I've started reading baseball stories. But here's the thing. If the Hall of Fame's about the history, and Barry Bonds clearly was one of the greatest players, in my estimation, with and without PEDs, the bottom line is they need to be in there because that's the story of Major League Baseball.
True.
For example, Barry Bonds was not the only person using PEDs. In fact, Rafael Palmeiro actually perjured himself in front of Congress, if you remember. I don't think Rafa's getting into the Hall of Fame, but he had a shot. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know if he's off the ballot. My point being, how do you have a Hall of Fame class where no one gets elected? It's not the first time by the baseball writers. In fact, the last time was 2013. What a joke.
Yeah, that's kind of. Do you think Curt Schilling? You think his political leanings play a part in why he didn't get voted in?
Totally.
Yeah, and say what you want. I am not a Curt Schilling fan when it comes to his politics. I want to be clear about that. But his politics didn't have the bloody sock in the World Series. I think he deserves to be in there regardless. Like, you're not getting voted in for your political beliefs. You're getting voted in for what you did on the field. And going back to what you said, that Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run race was one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had watching baseball ever. And that was totally driven by steroids. And that was a huge part of the game. That was history making and a lot of fun. And it even got fans, like casual fans like me, interested in baseball. That was a lot of fun. So I know what you're saying, but at the same time, I just hate the idea of rewarding these guys when they cheated. And I understand it was a very long era of cheating, and everyone was doing it. But it still rubs me the wrong way to reward these guys for doing that.
Yeah, I don't know that it's. I know where you're coming from, and that's kind of the predominant line of thought. But simply put, like, they weren't suspended. And what they gave the game in a lot of ways was more than ever's been given to the game since.
That's true.
And I just don't know. To me, Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer just when he was in Pittsburgh.
True.
Most people,
Very true.
Don't remember, Barry Bonds was a boss in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I do. Like, and the same with, Curt Schilling, like, I don't agree with him all, and he's borderline. He only has 215 wins. He comes from or 16, I think I saw. He comes from the era still, like Maddox and others, or Smoltz, who had a whole bunch of saves, where the 300 win sort of plateau is what you needed to get to. But mostly Schilling, he has 216 wins, but his playoff runs, especially with the Diamondbacks and of course the Red Sox, sort of give him that next leap, right? In my opinion, into the Hall of Fame. I just was wondering, like, it's so crazy. Like, yeah, Curt Schilling should probably, Barry Bonds to me definitively should. Roger Clemens definitively should. Regardless of the PEDs and all that, to me, they should. Baseball is kind of a game where cheating's encouraged.
Yeah, it's a game about records. That's what it is. And that's,
right? Ty Cobb, like one of the most famous baseball players.
Good point.
cheating, you ain't trying. Like, now granted, Ty Cobb was a terrible human, but I'm just saying that's the way baseball players think. Like, if you can get away with it, do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, just recently with the Houston Astros, like it's
Right.
a sport that has been just marred in cheating throughout its entire existence. The Black
Right.
Sox, go way back. Like it's a cheating sport. I get what you're saying, but again, I just hate the idea of rewarding these guys.
Well, so it will be interesting and something we'll have to put in the back of our heads or 80147 Sport. I mean, does Carlos Correa and Altuve and all those guys look, I mean, in my estimation, what they were doing, in fact, was worse than using PEDs because at least everyone could
Right.
use PEDs.
Right.
Not everyone was banging on the garbage can.
That was blatant. That was
Yeah. So the question becomes, whenever their times are, is this sort of cheating scandal, are they held to the standard of the PED users?
right.
That would be an interesting question. I doubt they will be. I mean, let's be honest. Like, you're talking about some Verlander, who I think is a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, was part of that team. Should it affect him? He's a pitcher, but he certainly benefited via rings.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's baseball's never going to be able to wash the stink of cheating off of it ever. It's been
And they
going on
shouldn't.
forever.
Just like the Olympics, they should just embrace it.
I mean, I don't know if you want to embrace it, but I don't think you can ignore it and just wish it away.
I've been a proponent of, look, man, the Russians, the Americans, all of them been trying to cheat in running since the beginning of time. Let them hit it right at the starting blocks, dude. If that's the best time, just have everyone do it. Let's have it fair. Give them all the same anabolic steroid or whatever it is runners use. I don't even know. And let them do it. Be fun for all of us. Bad for their heart.
Very bad for their heart. Let's talk some Super Bowl. Nothing really lights up the phone lines like talking baseball on a Utah podcast during Super Bowl week. I'll tell you what. Opening up the show, bringing it hot, man, bringing it hot. Are you excited for the Super Bowl?
I'm pretty excited. It's sort of like, I mean, especially with my team not playing, I get more excited like day of when I smell the food cooking, and I got it's on CBS this year. So I'll have that on all morning, listening to the terrible talk and the pieces and how Antonio Brown is misunderstood and everyone's out to get him. And Tom Brady's the only person who believes in him. And so he loves TB12. And then, all that hoopla. So I'm getting excited, but I'm not amped yet.
I mean, the Super Bowl, it's always fun, and it's a championship, right? So it's, for us, for sports fans, it's always going to be exciting. I just feel like it's so overhyped for an event that lasts 4 hours. I just feel like it's so much. And I was listening to Dan Patrick today, and we've gone on record saying we think he's the best in the business by far. There's not even a second place as far as I'm concerned. But it is, and one thing I like about him is he's got a little hubris. He's got a little arrogance going on, but he knows it, and so he can poke fun at it. You know what I mean? He kind of makes fun that he's like a star. He kind of pokes fun at it. But there was something today that really kind of, I don't know, it jumped out at me. And they were talking about, are you feeling the hype for this year's Super Bowl? And they're just like, there's just no hype. There's just no hype. It's because we're not down there, and we're not, we don't have the press and the media, and there's no one who is in Tampa right now covering this thing. So there's just no hype. And he mentioned something about how, really we get everyone hyped up for this. Like we, as the media, we get everyone hyped up for the Super Bowl. And I'm just thinking, I love Dan Patrick, man, but we don't need the media to get us hyped for the Super Bowl. That wasn't the most tone deaf thing I've ever heard in my life, because we don't have I don't know, Dan Lebitard or Colin Cowherd down in Tampa Bay with crowds screaming behind him on the beach, that we can't possibly get hyped for the Super Bowl. I thought that was a little tone deaf.
I mean, that is interesting. I didn't hear that, but I mean, they do an awesome show when they are.
They do, yeah, they do. But I think he was talking about the media in general. Yeah.
I mean, like to a certain extent, that's true.
I don't care. I could not care less when a radio show is down. In fact, I would prefer it if they aren't down at the Super Bowl, because I don't want to have Super Bowl content jammed down my throat for 2 weeks, and then I get tired of it and I don't care anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Radio Row is pretty cool at Super Bowl just because they get so many people rolling through, and you can, they're going to come on and you can kind of toy with them and play with them maybe a little more than you might normally. But, now that you mention it, it doesn't, given the matchup and sort of what's on the line, at least, theoretically, if Patrick Mahomes continues on even remotely on the pace that he's on currently, it does feel like there isn't as much juice behind this one as in previous years. And there would only be one thing missing, right? And that would be the press being there. So maybe they're right. I don't know. Sports Center is going to talk about the Super Bowl every night, no matter what, right? So, yes, if you're talking that's not a fair, or adequate way of viewing whether or not you're amped for the Super Bowl. But think about it right now. And I don't know, this will be a good question maybe to start our discussion of the Super Bowl. And I'm sure other people have done it, but look, Brady's obviously the GOAT currently. And if you look at the people behind him, there is only one person who literally has a chance in catching him.
Patrick Mahomes.
Currently playing in the league, and his name's Patrick Mahomes. And so this is not only possibly a torch passing, maybe it's more of a torch snatching by Patrick Mahomes if he gets the W and continues on this crazy pace that he's on. The dude, who was the last person to beat Patrick Mahomes? Do you know? No. He's only lost one. He's 26-1. And I'm trying to think who it was. Oh, I do. I know. It's David Carr.
David Carr, right.
So it's a very unique circumstance where I am not feeling that. And maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not listening to as much sports radio as I normally would because I'm not in my car as much or whatnot. But it does feel like some of the hoopla surrounding it isn't as significant in years past.
See, for me, I'm more excited than, and I just got done saying I think the Super Bowl can get overhyped. And I think part of it is because it's just for 2 weeks, that's all you're hearing about. And it gets old and I get a little worn out from it, unless I'm going to the game. I don't know how it can possibly live up to that hype, even with some of the great games we've seen. But this year I actually am, because of what you just said, because it's the old guard versus the new guard. It's, Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and he's trying to really cement his legacy. And Patrick Mahomes is trying to, like you said, snatch the torch. To me, that is one of the best storylines we've ever had in a Super Bowl. I can't think off the top of my head a better metaphor for what the league is right now. I think that's so cool, and I don't need Dan Patrick and Colin Cowherd. And again, I love Dan Patrick, best in the business, hands down. But I don't need them feeding me interviews and joking interviews and having fun with people behind them, and screaming and yelling. I don't need that for 2 weeks to get me hyped. The storyline itself, I think, is so cool. And that's why I'm more excited for this one than I have been for a Super Bowl in a long time.
You realize what we do here on this show is get people hyped for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but do you think, I kind of disagree. I don't know if we get people hyped, but I think we preview it.
We bring them down. You're right. My bad.
Well, starting off with baseball talk, on Super Bowl week. That's just really getting them hyped.
Lost some subscribers.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. No, but I think we preview it, and I think we talk about it, and that's fun. And that's why I listen to sports radio, and that's why I watch Sports Center and all that kind of stuff, because I like the breaking down. I don't need people to be like, hey, remember, Super Bowl, week and a half. Hey, guess what? Super Bowl, we're here. I don't need that. To me, that's annoying. It drives me crazy.
And you're right in the sense, even, my mother who literally, she'll watch Utah games, but she only watches Utah because that's where she went. She doesn't even really like football, but she's very aware that the Super Bowl is going to be coming up. You know,
Right,
like
right.
it's not something that slips even the most casual of fans' minds. It's a day where in the past people got together and celebrated, you know, the end of the season, the beginning of spring, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, this game presents so many unique opportunities that really will probably never get again.
I agree.
You know, I mean, you have a guy who, in Patrick Mahomes, who I think it's safe to say was overlooked in the draft, even though he was drafted like 13 or 15 or whatever it is by the Chiefs. You know, even by my Chicago Bears. And the man who's done it for 20 odd years at a level that no one has even come close to achieving other than himself. And, you know, while the stories and the easy sort of story, right, the easy aspect to point to, I think, is, you know, Tom versus Patrick or Pat. To me, the more interesting one is Arians versus Reed, right? I mean, Arians has been there before, but he's kind of like Andy Reid was just last year. Like this really good coach who everyone respects, but hasn't won the big one, right? As the head man. And there's a lot on the line for him. And I think for Andy Reid too, and a lot of other Chiefs as well, and also Buccaneers. But really, to me, I think this is going to be won by coaching strategy, not so much that's implemented already and not so much on the fly, because I don't think there's a whole many adjustments you can make if you're the Buccaneers if things go south quickly, right? Other than turnovers. That's obviously the ultimate equalizer. There's not a whole lot of adjustments you can make if Tyreek Hill is just running by your whole team and scoring touchdowns. There's no adjustment for that because you're not going to gain speed at halftime. But on the opposite side, I mean, if the Buccaneers are running the ball effectively, not even well, just effectively enough to make you think about it, and you have, you know, Gronk, Evans, Goodwin, and AB, I mean, those are a very, very formidable receiving core.
Yeah.
And right. And they may be older and a little longer in the tooth than the Chiefs receiving core.
I prefer the word experienced.
Experienced. Okay. More experienced.
As someone who's getting long in the tooth, I prefer that term.
I gotcha. But the difference is not huge, right? Also, let's not forget the whole reason that the Buccaneers won last week or 2 weeks ago, pardon me, versus Green Bay is because the boys up front got the job done.
Exactly.
Well, Patrick Mahomes, and then that's on both sides of the balls, but I was specifically talking about the defensive front. Patrick Mahomes without both his tackles. They're both out. So, and we know Bakhtiari was out when Tampa Bay played Green Bay, and they ate that line for lunch, who had been a strong suit of the Packers offense team all year. So, I mean, really, look, you know, there'll be flashy plays. And also, let's be honest, minus the pass to Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes' performance in the Super Bowl wasn't up to his level.
Right.
It was way below what we have come to expect from Pat Mahomes. Now, you know, he may be a victim of his own success in that aspect because he still won. So who cares, right? But I'm not sure if a performance like that gets it done this year versus Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
I agree with you. And going back to what you said about the coaching, first of all, Arians and Reed are pretty much two guys. If you didn't know better, they could be brothers. You know, like it's so funny to see because we got guys like Sean McVay. And, you know, we got young and up and coming guys who are taking the league by storm. And now you just got these two old, kind of overweight, crotchety, dumpy looking guys. And I love to see that because it's kind of old school football. And to me, I think Arians has got the tougher job because, like you said, if the Chiefs start clicking, there's not much adjustment you can do, but you got to try, right? Like you have to do something. And I don't know what you do. I think going into this game, I think Andy Reid has a better idea of what the Buccaneers are gonna do than Bruce Arians does with the Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs are always throwing surprises at you. They never start the game quick, so expect them to go down, and then they just come storming back, and that kind of just tramples all over your game plan. So what do you do at that point? So I as far as a coaching job, I think Bruce Arians has his work cut out for him in this one. That said, I think Tampa Bay, I've just been really impressed with them in the playoffs. And we talk about how Tom Brady got back to another Super Bowl, but they almost did it. It wasn't solely because of Tom Brady. Like, we've seen Brady in the past take over games and assert his dominance, and we didn't really see that in these playoffs. We saw them win because the defense came up strong, or because their running game came up strong. So to me, it's just such a solid team that we've seen in the postseason, and it's making it really, really difficult for me to pick against them, because I picked against Tom Brady against Green Bay, and that was stupid. That was stupid. Everything is telling me to go Chiefs. Everything. Like, when I'm kind of checking the stats and breaking this down a little bit. With that said, I'm not making the same mistake twice, dude. I can't pick against Tom Brady in the freaking Super Bowl. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. It doesn't matter how great the Chiefs are. It doesn't matter how talented they are. It doesn't matter how exciting Pat Mahomes is. None of that matters, because it's freaking Tom Brady, and it doesn't matter. He can go down by, what was he down to Atlanta? Was it like 21?
28-3, baby. 28-3,
and he led him back, So to me, it's never a smart move to pick against Tom Brady. If you're going to pick against Tom Brady, you better have a damn good reason to do it, and I don't have a good enough reason to do it. So I got to go with the Bucks, man.
You're going Bucks.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, Bucks. Yeah, I'm going Bucks. The way you said that, I thought I said the wrong team, but no, I got to, man. Chiefs are favored by 3. Keep that in mind.
Yep. Look, I mean, Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, I can't remember, and I was just trying to Google and figure it out. I know he was... I think he was the defensive coordinator in 07-08 when they beat him, because then he went to the Saints. I think he was. And so if there's one cap in the feather of the Chiefs, Chief Nation, Chief Kingdom, whatever the heck they're called, it's that you have a defensive coordinator who's met Brady on the biggest stage and beaten with a lesser team. Now you have a better team than you did with the Giants, I think, unquestionably. And the opportunity to do it again. And I don't know about you, but I've really struggled to make my decision on this game.
Absolutely.
I see it. I see your perspective, and I've thought of, and I've bounced back and forth. Normally when I pick Super Bowls in the 2-week layoff, I have my team, and then I'm just firing shots from the other side, seeing if it can sway it. This, honestly, I've been back and forth on who I was going to pick and why I was going to pick, and I agree with you in the sense that it's really hard to pick against Tom Brady come Super Bowl time, especially if Eli Manning's not on the other sideline,
exactly,
right? Or Coughlin or someone like that. But Steve Spagnuolo is. So let me give you one little tie-in that might help change your mind. First of all, he's there. And it's very interesting. Both Bowles and Spagnuolo really like to bring pressure. Well, both of these quarterbacks, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, have no problem dealing with pressure, right? But you have 2 tackles out if you're Todd Bowles for the Buccaneers. So pressure is going to be the answer, I think.
That's the problem.
Right?
I think so too.
Pressure, then get him to the ground. If you're the Bucs defensive coordinator, if you're the Chiefs and their DC and their defensive players, the question is, it worked sort of last time you played them, right? As far as, being able to get to Brady and make him uncomfortable, but he's had 2 weeks now and he's going to be prepared. No one's going to be more prepared than Tom Brady. I think we can say that without a doubt at this point in his career. And so it really is a toss-up game. I mean, 3 points, that's a pick 'em as far as I'm concerned. Anytime a field goal, it's a pick 'em. But I gotta go with the Chiefs. And the main reason is this. I don't know if AB is going to be solid coming back off injury. I don't know if Goodwin can keep not dropping the ball. Consequently, if you're a gambler, look, they're going to try. If you're the Chiefs are going to try to stop Mike Evans, right? Make sure Fournette and Ronald Jones are null and void in the run game, which leaves Gronk. And they're probably going to do their best not to let Gronk and Evans in the passing game. AB and Goodwin, right? Those are the two guys who I would suspect have the best chance, other than Tom Brady, of being the MVP of the Super Bowl if the Buccaneers win. I think I saw Godwin is like an 82-1 odds to win the Super Bowl MVP. If I were a gambling man, that is the dude I'd choose. And
Interesting.
If that happens, I want you to know you heard it here first.
Interesting.
That is the dude to put your 100 on and get some cash. I'm telling you, he's going to have a big game, but it's not going to be enough. I'm going Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, 41-28.
You think it's going to be a blowout?
41-28.
I was going 27-24.
41-28.
All right, hold on. I got to write this down. I got this leather-bound book that it's like, this is in stone. This is going down in history in this one. So it's no scratch paper. So you have KC 41-28. That's James. And I have Tampa Bay 27-24. Okay. That's interesting because, I mean, yeah, it's going to, it'll determine the Super Bowl who wins this. But more importantly, for everyone involved, it's going to determine who wins our postseason challenge between you and I.
Truly.
Because we're tied right now.
I mean, do you think, like, I know we're talking about this and every sports radio talk show is talking about, sort of the passing of the torch. I don't get the sense that that's what Tom Brady's thinking.
No, I don't think he wants that at all. I think he wants to prove, without a doubt, that he is the most dominant.
So the question becomes, whose will would be greater in this context?
Exactly.
Tom Brady's will not to let Patrick Mahomes even have that sliver of hope, or Patrick Mahomes' will to have that sliver of hope that someday he may be able to usurp or supplant Tom Brady as the GOAT in the NFL.
And to me, that's exactly why I'm going with Tom Brady and the Bucs, because as I've broken this thing down, as I've looked at it all, everything's telling me to go with the Chiefs. Everything. But they're just, it's Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. He's got Gronk. He's got Antonio Brown. He's got guys around him. Like, to me, that's always going to be a safe bet to go with Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. So, and also the fact that is the narrative. That is the narrative that everyone is painting going into this game, is that it is it could be the passing of the torch. And I think, as an old guy, I understand what it feels like when the young generation's coming up on you, and you want to hold on to that as long as you can. So to me, that's it. That's my whole reasoning. Every other facet of this game is telling me to go with Kansas City.
I mean, it will be interesting to see. Like, I really like the defensive front seven of Tampa Bay. I mean, whether it's Wyatt or Ndamukong Suh or others, pardon me, they're able to get pressure, and they're vicious when it comes to hitting. They're willing to lay the wood. But, I mean, it just seems, right? Like, the beauty of it is the Chiefs aren't going to be overwhelmed if they get down early, right?
Right.
And the Chiefs just seem to do, especially over the last few years with their runs, enough defensively. They're never perfect. They're never overwhelming. They're never the 85 Bears or the leaders from the Minnesota Vikings. But they always seem to make the important play that actually defines the outcome of a game. I mean, we saw it in the championship with Dirty Dan Sorensen, right? A BYU alum making the hit on Higgins that causes the fumble out of the back of the end zone and changes the complexity of that game for who knows, right? If he just holds on, not if he doesn't score a touchdown. that game is so much more different. Maybe he led with the helmet. Maybe it should have been targeting. I don't know, but it wasn't called, and it was just that play at that moment. So I understand where you're coming from, and believe me, I'm torn.
It's a hard one. This is tough.
This is the least confident I've ever been in any of my Super Bowl picks since we've been doing the show.
Which, have you missed a Super Bowl?
Yeah, the only Super Bowl I missed was the Eagles, and I bet on Tom Brady.
That's right. That's right.
That's the only one. And
that's right. Yeah, in 10 years. So you're 9-1 in the Super Bowl since we've been doing this show. 9-1. That's pretty damn good.
Yes, 9-1, but man, I'd like to be 10-0, and now I just got a bad taste because Tom Brady's the reason why I did.
It's tough, man. Like, this is a tough one. It's as tough as they get. It's locked though. It's in the leather-bound book.
It's in.
It cannot be changed now.
Let's add one. Who is the MVP then?
That's a good one. I'm gonna go Tom Brady.
You have to pick the Bucs.
I got to, right? You got to.
I mean, he could complete 10 passes, and if they win, he's MVP.
Right.
You know what I mean? For me, I'm going Kelsey. I think Kelsey's the factor. I mean, he's going up. I don't know if they'd call him his idol, but a player he really respects in Gronk. I mean, there are so many, right? I feel like the torch has already been passed to Kelsey from Gronk. Gronk would never admit that, but I just think from a performance-based analysis, Kelsey's the best tight end in the league. And then there are even maybe one other who would be ahead of him. Kittle probably is ahead of Gronk. Gronk's probably the third. But there are so many sort of parallels in players who are trying to ascend to the levels of Gronk and Brady that makes me think the fire in their belly might just be enough to get him over the hump. And I have them winning by 13. Let's go, Chiefs.
It's gonna be a good game, I think. I mean, it doesn't sound like you think it will be, but I just think it's gonna be a shootout. I think it's gonna be fun. This will be a fun game, despite Tony Romo on the call. I know you love him. You love him.
Tony, come on. It's Tony Romo, dude.
He drives me insane. I don't know what it is about him, but he drives me insane. This is Dog and Deuce. If you are watching on the old boob tube, the television with the old rabbit ears on top, we are on K-Patter TV and Backcountry TV. We are played all weekend long on the tube. So check us out. We are also a podcast, if you did not know, for all of our television viewers. You can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or you can check us out over at doganddeuce.com. Let's talk some Utah Jazz basketball. Because you were feeling pretty good last week, and you were very optimistic with the Jazz. Now, losses happen. In fact, both of us said they're going to lose at some point. Like, obviously, the streak's not going to go on forever. They're going to dip. They're going to look bad at times. We both knew that. That said, how did that loss at Denver affect your enthusiasm for this year's team?
It didn't. I just
answer.
Recall it being exactly what we've been discussing, right? I mean, Denver is a thorn in the Jazz's side. Whether Jazz fans want to admit it or accept it or just view it as a fact, because it is, right?
Yep.
I mean, Denver has some pieces that can really make it difficult on the Jazz. And I think you mostly saw it from a defensive aspect, right? Especially in the Nuggets game. And I mean, in this sense, I mean, obviously Jokic took Rudy to task, took Favors to task. Anytime you have he had 49 or something like that, 49 points in a game. Look, you got to call it what it is. He worked Rudy and Derek over that night. That happens to the best of them, right? But I mean, as you run down the box score from that game.
Yeah, but part of the problem was Quinn had Bogdanovich on him a lot of the time too, and he was playing a weird zone too, which definitely contributed to it.
But that's because otherwise they had no shot.
True.
I mean, that was his adjustment and it didn't work, right? I mean, it's weird when Murray only has 16 and then you see, Michael Porter with 11. I look at the box score and it's almost crazy to me that they came out with 128 points because you see the 47 and then I'm assuming Murray's going to drop like 28 in there, but he only had 16. I mean, the only person above 20 was Jokic. but everyone else was getting 18, 10, 16, 11, 12. It's something I've spoke to where at times, look, the Jazz, and I guess this is the best way as I've been thinking about what I've talked about over the last two shows about how the Jazz individually are weak on the wings and at the shooting guard, with the exception of Royce. I mean, look, Bogdanovich is not a defender. That's clear, right? Like he's not going to win defensive awards, right? You know, like he hasn't. Sometimes it looks like he just would rather have them score so we could get back to the real part of the game, which is scoring in his mind, or at least it appears that way. But it addresses some issues or points, makes clear to me that as a unit, they're solid defensively. In their individual capacity, at times, they rely too much on having, Rudy back there, and it makes them vulnerable. Now, some of that is skill and talent and just pure physical capabilities when compared to the other players who Royce or the others might be going up against. But it really made me evaluate whether or not I think come playoff time, they will be able to defend individually, making the unit well, as instead of the unit being the whole cause of them looking good defensively.
I agree. And the thing with the Denver game is that first quarter, and it's going to sound crazy, but if you're watching the game, I don't even think they were that bad defensively that first quarter. The Nuggets just didn't miss. They just didn't miss. And you're thinking, okay, there's no way they can keep this up. But the problem was the Jazz, you could just tell they were getting beat down defensively as the game went on and on and on. And they just kind of given up defensively. I don't want to say given up, but they definitely, you could tell there was a moment there where like, okay, streak's over. Let's just kind of mail it in. And that's what happened. And they ended up making a little bit of a game of it, which was good. But it just happens. You're just going to get beat sometimes. And they won in Denver, which I think is a win. So right now the series is tied with Denver at one apiece. Both of those were on the road. So that's a win. That's a good thing to come out of that. Denver is surging right now. I mean, they are, let's see here. They have won, 7. They won 7 of the last 10. So they must have won. I know they had a game against the Pistons that was postponed because of COVID. So I honestly thought that the Jazz game against the Pistons was going to be postponed. But fortunately, it happened. Jazz came out on fire, and you're thinking, okay, good, man. Like, good. They're bouncing back. I know the Pistons suck, even though they beat the Lakers. They beat a couple other good teams, too. But it's good to see them do this. And then, man, like, it was a late game. It started at 8 o'clock. I hate those games. I'm getting too old. I hate those games. I was ready for bed, and I'm thinking, okay, we're up by 20-something. I can go to bed early. I don't need to see the end of this. And then it just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And next thing you know, a 26-point lead was whittled down to 4. And the Jazz couldn't hit anything. And
they got lucky. I mean, let's be honest. Sure, Bogdanovich hit those 2 threes, but there was an exchange there where Grant, and I can't remember who else from Detroit, had wide open threes.
Yes.
And they would have taken the lead if they had hit 2 or been within 1 if they only had made 1. And they just were short. And it's the old saying that we've discussed many times. It's hard to come back and get over the hump. You'll get close, but getting over the hump is good. And the Jazz are lucky. Like, look,
very.
You hit on it in the Denver series, in the Denver game, how they were down so much, the defense, and to even get back in it remotely, the defensive intensity had to be so high that at the end they had nothing left in the tank. And this was sort of similar in a way because they came out on fire offensively, right? But defensively, the Jazz are in this really weird conundrum, it seems to me. Tell me what you think about this. They have to hear, and they know the reports and the numbers. I mean, if the season ended today, the Jazz, and this is almost hard to imagine, right? Being a Jazz fan our whole lives, would have the greatest season from a team regarding 3-point shooting ever. Better than the Golden State Warriors when they won 73 games.
Think about that for a second. Because that team, I couldn't believe what they were doing from beyond the arc. I mean, and think about it. They had Draymond Green, first of all, who could hit a three as a big man. We don't have a big man who can hit a three. They have Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. I mean, this is an insane shooting team at that point. And the Jazz are on pace to beat them. It's crazy.
I mean, they'll be the best 3-point shooting team in the history of the league by a wide stretch if they continue on this path. But so it feels like, at least when I watch them, right? To me, it feels like sometimes on the defensive end, not only is the intensity not there, it's just sort of the assumption, it feels like, that it's all right. We're going to go hit a couple threes and we'll be back. This sort of thinking is starting to bug the hell out of me, because this is the thinking that gets you beat in the playoffs.
It's true.
The Jazz are a really good team, right? I don't want to say great. They're a very good team, but they are not a team who can have that mental outlook against any opponent, as the Detroit Pistons proved just last night. You cannot have that outlook. You're not that good, right? And it seems to me it's sort of seeping into the psyche, at least from a defensive perspective. They're willing to play the game of we'll outscore you. And frankly, in the playoffs, I think that's a bad game to play. And it won't beat the teams that you need to in order to advance deep into the playoffs.
It has very rarely worked. Even those Golden State Warriors teams, they were still elite defensively. I mean, outstanding defensively. Not even just serviceable. Like, they were great. I think the problem is, the problem defensively is, and you saw it. It all stemmed, the run that the Pistons made all stemmed from the Jazz missing their shots, missing the threes. You miss the threes, they're going to be long rebounds, which allow the team to run, and then you can't get set defensively. To me, that's where it all stems from. And that's the main reason I'm not big on the shoot the three at any cost mentality. You know, either up close near the basket or shoot the three. I don't like that, just because it makes it so much harder on you defensively when you go cold. When you don't go cold, it's great. It's fantastic. And you've seen what happens. The Jazz execute it perfectly. But when you go cold, you let a team like the Detroit Pistons destroy your 26-point lead and whittle it down to 4. Like, that's scary. That's very scary. So that's the reason I'm not a big fan of it. And I think once they start hitting their shots again, they're going to be better defensively. That's just how it is, because they are a good defensive team. I really think it's a little deceiving, those numbers. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, and a lot of the stats nerds out there could probably be yelling at their iPods. Oh my God, I just said iPods, at their phones right now.
I still use an iPod, bro, so that's okay.
Yeah, but you would have a BlackBerry if you could right now.
I would. I still use the old iPod, the old iPod Touch when I'm on the lawn, man.
Yeah, that's how you know we're old. Okay, let's look at. Got a couple minutes left. Let's look at this next week's game, and we'll make our picks. So they have 4 games coming up before we record next. 3 on the road, 1 at home. So they are at Atlanta, at Charlotte, at Indiana, and then back home against Boston. So it's toughening up a little bit. I mean, again, not great teams, but no slouches either. I mean, Atlanta, the Jazz handled them, and Trae Young didn't look good when they came to town. That's not going to be the case. What are the odds of you shutting him down 2 games in a row? It's not good. So that's going to be a tough one, I think. Then where do they go? Then they go to Charlotte. They're going to meet their old buddy Gordon. Old Gordo, living large in Charlotte, and
playing well.
He is. He's playing well. It's because there's no one else on the team, you know?
Yeah.
And he's playing well, and they are...
Don't you degrade Malik Monk like that, okay? Like, come on.
And they're 10-12. So, yeah, that's great, man. Fantastic. But let's start with the Atlanta game. The Hawks are 10-11. They're currently in the 6th seed in the East. They've lost 2 in a row. So I don't know if they're playing tonight. I don't think so. So are the Jazz going to hand them their 3rd loss in a row? What say you?
Well, I mean, look, the Hawks are, again, the road versus home win ratio. This is such a bizarre year. I will be so interested to see how it plays out. I think the Hawks are better than their 10-11 record. I mean, what was it? January 9th? No, January 16th, I guess we probably played them. January 16th, we played them. And, yeah, it wasn't much of a game. They were on their final night of a long road trip, right? Now you are the one starting your road trip, heading to Atlanta. Having said that, they're a young team, and they can give the Jazz trouble because Trae Young can give anyone trouble if he gets hot. But I'm going to take the Jazz in that matchup. It's the next 3 games where it gets a little more hazy for me, a little more foggy.
Gets a little iffy. So then they'll play Charlotte on a back end of a back-to-back. So they'll see Hayward after playing the night before. That game's on Friday. What do you think? I'm going with the Jazz in the Atlanta game too, by the way.
I was hoping so.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's starting to get look, this is for being in first place, the next 4 and even I would say 10 games are extremely important for the Jazz because right now they're being tested in ways that they haven't in over 20 days, right? Including even the Detroit game. That was a good test and a nice response. The Hornets, for some reason, seem to give Jazz, whether it's Kemba Walker or even, Miles Bridges. Is Marvin Williams still on that team? Probably.
Probably.
I think he might be at Dallas now.
I think CJ Miles is still on that team.
Yeah, they seem to give us difficulties. But I'm going to take the Jazz in that one as well.
I am too. Even though it's a back-to-back, I am too. Then they're going to play Indiana, and that is on Friday, so they'll get a day of rest. It's getting a little bit tougher now. Now we're talking. It's a little bit tougher.
I mean, all these are tough. Recognize you're playing the 4, 5, and 6 seeds in the East and the 8 seed, if you include Charlotte, as the standings are currently construed, over the next 10-day span. You're going to drop a game. I have them losing to Indiana.
I think I am too, just because it's the end of the road trip. By the way, your brother Ben looks exactly like Domantas Sabonis now.
He does.
Like, you'll see. I mean, identical. The other day, I just had a basketball. I think NBA TV was on, and the Pacers were playing. And I looked up, and I swear to God, I thought your brother was on TV.
Well, God, I wish he was in the NBA. Life would be a lot easier. I hope. Fingers crossed.
But, I mean, the Jazz have already had trouble with Karis LeVert this year. And Domantas Sabonis always seems to play well against us. So I think Indiana's a tougher team than you might think. And I think the Jazz, just the end of a road trip, yeah, I got the Jazz dropping that one. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull it out.
Well, and I mean, remember, TJ Warren was on fire.
That's true.
In last year. And then Miles Turner, I mean, I think I was reading he's averaging 3.9 blocks a game, which would be the highest since Mutombo in 94. So he's in the running. But as you run down some of the players, you got, people who, Justin Holiday, Malcolm Brogdon, they all seem to give the Jazz in spots, not consistently, a hard time based on their skill set. I just like Indiana. I agree with you. I think they're way better than their record and seeding indicates. Maybe not as high, not a top 3 team, but I think between them and the Celtics, it's a toss-up who's the 4 and 5.
I mean, because think about Indiana, they had to deal with a big-time trade. There's just a lot going on for them this season, but I think they're much better than that. So I can definitely see them surprising the Jazz, but I'm going to go with the Jazz dropping that one. And then they finish up our week, I should say, with Boston at home. This is a tough one, man. Because I see, here's the thing. For me, I see the Jazz going 3-1 in the next 4.
Yeah, see, I have them going 500. I have them losing to the Celtics. Again, the Celtics present a weird group of individuals that is tough. And we'll find out if what I've been telling you is true. Jason Tatum, 6'9". Who's going to guard Jason Tatum and stop him? Right? Jaylen Brown can get to the rim on the best defenders, and none of the Jazz wing players are the best defenders in the league. Now, maybe Rudy will have a heyday, maybe he won't. But I mean, and I think the Celtics, I'm a little disappointed in their 11-9 record, right?
I am too.
They're clearly missing something, not having Gordon there. But the pieces they have are the pieces that give the Jazz trouble night in and night out, and hence I got the Celtics.
I think more than anything, Kemba Walker is not playing nearly to the level that they expected him to. I think that's really where it's coming from, their issues. Remember when Jazz fans were just dying, chomping at the bit to get Kemba Walker? Man, am I glad we didn't have that work out. So I got them going 3-1. I think they'll beat at home. I'm going to say they're going to beat Boston, but you could flip the Indiana game and Boston game for me. So you got them going 500.
500, 2-2, man.
There's the good old James I remember.
I'm back. The Jazz love is dwindling fast.
You were much too positive on them last week. It didn't feel right, man.
I struggled to sleep. I mean, when I'm feeling too good about any of my teams, it makes me stay up at night. There's something wrong. And look, but this really is like going to be one of the more interesting stretches. Not even just those 4 games, but the ones following. Like we clearly know the Jazz can beat anyone at their height, right? When they're right. Making 25 threes a game, any team can beat anyone.
Right.
The question is, in those real grind out games where you have to focus defensively, the 3-shot isn't falling at as high a rate as you're used to, but it's still there. Can they get the stops in crucial moments? And when there's a Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown and a LeBron James, I'm just not confident of it.
It's tough.
Time will tell.
That's what I'm anxious to see, and that is going to do it. Episode 355 of Dog and Deuce is in the books. If you would, it would mean a lot to us if you tell a friend, get out the old phone and send them a text message, send them a link, email, whatever you want to do. And if you do, and you send us a little proof, we'll ship you out a hat. These are sweet hats, too. Awesome hats that James splurged on for us. So I will. Shipping's on me. So it's the easiest thing in the world to do, man. You send a message to a friend, you send a message to us, give me your address, and it's off. It's in the mail. As good as done. And we will be back next week to break down some more Jazz basketball. We'll also be breaking down the Super Bowl, what happened there, and anything else that happens in the world of sports. We would love to hear your thoughts. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I am Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And we will see you next week.
Thanks for making us a part of your quarantine.
Enjoy your Super Bowl.